kind of have a look, and potentially you wrote about a few different things, but if there was one standout thing or a couple standout things, I want you to have a look at that area and see if you can pull out a broad feeling that might be included in. So maybe there's specific things going on, but it comes down to, I'm really worried about my finances. I'm really worried about security. I don't feel safe. I feel out of control. I am worried about others, and I feel overwhelmed. I feel anxious. I feel depressed. I feel numb. Something that feels like it connects in with those thoughts. And I just want you to have like a blanket, broad statement of feeling that seems to hold a bunch of the potential pattern that you might have wrote about. I worry what others think about me. I feel like I'm not enough. I feel like when I'm not doing things in the world, I don't have any value, so I don't have any self-respect. Things like that. Like what is the feeling that you're getting? What is this pattern? So I'll give you just like a few seconds to think about that. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I just want it to feel like it feels true for you. And I also don't want to make it feel too overwhelming. If there's something a little bit too deep right now, if there's something that feels a bit too raw and potentially like might emotionally get out of control, I don't want you to go there. I want you to go to the safe spot where you feel like you can feel the discomfort of this emotion, but it doesn't necessarily overtake you, because I also want us to be safe during this. And sometimes when we play around with this stuff, I'm not a psychologist. I'm just like somebody who's doing this with you. I just want you to take accountability and not go to places where you don't think that you could come back from, because we need to respect our emotions sometimes, especially in this place. So have your blanket kind of term. I'm something that you're worried about, something that I always do that to fill in space, and I don't know why. I think maybe my mom said that when I was little. Okay, so have that, and we're going to put it aside, and we're going to come back to it later. So now we're going to go into a meditation that I've come into contact with a few different teachers. So I'm taking a few different things, a couple different ways of approaching stuff, and I'm melding it together. So it's sometimes called heart activation breathing. Sometimes it's called heart coherence meditation. Sometimes it's heart-centered breathing, heart-focused. Essentially, we're going to be doing a lot of work on this heart area and heart center. And it's something that I want to do very early on in this retreat experience, because I think that it is one of the most simple things that can have incredible value in every other situation of our life. It's a very good way, if not anything, of calming ourselves down so that we can gain clarity in order to make decisions from the best place possible. More than that, in a way, there's an institute called the Heart Math Institute in California. And when I was at a specific retreat, they came and did they hooked everybody up to electrodes and a heart monitor while doing this meditation. And you can see very quickly, it's called heart coherence or heart activation. What happens in this meditation, or what is the ideal situation, is that the electromagnetic waves of our heart sync up with our brain waves. And so we become very efficient. And what happens when the waves are not talking at all, we tend to be thinking from like just our head, and it tends to be just that stress kind of place. So when we do this heart meditation, we can sync up the waves. It says these people at Heart Math Institute, and says a lot of really experienced instructors and teachers, we can make decisions from a really calm place, and we can make intelligent, emotion-felt decisions. This is what a lot of ancient wisdom says that making decisions from the heart is the greatest form of intelligence. And I think we've lost connection with that. We tend to kind of cut our resources in half, when really if we put our head and our heart together, then we're like the ultimate optimal human being. So we're going to do this heart activation breathing. So I'd like you to get comfortable. We're going to be doing it for about 15-20 minutes. So if you want to have a different seat, whatever, you can figure that out now. And if you want to listen on headphones, you can also do that. So I'll give you just a few seconds to get comfortable. Okay. And everybody start taking some nice slow breaths in. And I invite you all to close your eyes. And just start calming everything down. Checking inward. Noticing how your body's feeling. Can you feel the surfaces of your body that are touching the floor or the chair? Dropping your shoulders. Relax your jaw, relax your face. Sink deeper with gravity. And just slowing down the breath to a place that's comfortable for you. And I want you to start breathing into your heart and out of your heart, turning all of your intention towards the heart center. If it helps, you can place your hands over your heart, or you can let them rest at your side. Just breathing into the heart space and breathing out. And just feeling the sensations of that area. Breathing into the heart and breathing out of the heart. And just stay here. You don't have to do anything, but just notice and feel. We're connecting the communication between our mind and our heart, or our mind and our body. And the use of the heart to make decisions and to guide us through life is not as practiced as the mind. So if you wander, then just come back to breathing into the heart and breathing out of the heart. And without breaking this focus, keep your intention on this area. I would like you to bring in some emotional state, and you can do this by a memory or a flash to a picture in your mind. And I'd like that emotional state to be of gratitude, joy, courage, appreciation. any of those emotions. Perhaps you have a memory of giving someone a gift, or seeing the face of a loved one, a child, a grandchild, sitting with a pet. And rather than just visualize the memory, I would like you to try to really feel that emotion in your heart center. What does appreciation feel like in the heart? What does joy feel like? Keep breathing into the heart, breathing out. And let this emotional state sit there or grow or change into another one that I mentioned. What does it feel like to be brave? What does it feel like to be kind or to have kindness directed towards you? Feel those emotions in the heart center. And keep a hold of this feeling if you can, and I'd like you to remember the statement that you thought of or wrote down. And I'd like you to ask your heart center the best way forward. What should I do about this worry? What is the best course of action? How can I accept this part of myself? Ask the wisdom of your heart. And just watch. You might expect some very profound answer, but from my experience, the heart and our body is very simple in its truth. It just loves. So the answers might be one word, 2 words. So don't expect anything profound in detail, but definitely profound in wisdom. And if you can't feel anything, that's okay, because we're not practiced at this. This is one of the workout sessions to be able to run a marathon. So don't put too much pressure. Just feel into your heart. Keep breathing in and out, and just listen and connect. What do I need to know about this situation? Breathing into the heart and breathing out. And to finish, I'd like you to just bring back that emotion, if you can, of joy or gratitude or appreciation. And let it sit there and let it grow. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes and just come back to the room. Feel your feet on the ground, but take your time. If you did have anything come up as an answer or guidance, then feel free to write that down. or anything about your experience that you want to remember or think on later? What I was always surprised about when I started to do this, asking the heart for advice, was the joyful simplicity in its response. Almost like I doubted it because it feels too easy. I always give this example to patients when I tell patients to do this exercise. It feels like a loving parent giving advice to a toddler, where the toddler's like, I can't tie my shoe. I can't do this thing and they're too upset and they can't even think about it, even though they've done it before. It's the worry that we have is very heady. And the parent's just like, just tie your shoe. Just remember you know how to do it. And I feel like that's the heart wisdom. It's like, I'm worried that I'm not enough. You are. You just are. I'm worried that I'm not loved. I'm not good enough. You are. I love you. People love you. It's very simple. So if you have that experience, you're not alone. I mean, your heart could be saying something epic. I'd like to hear about it if that's the case. But this is a good exercise to do the heart breathing. If you ever need to make a decision, if you're going into a meeting, if you're going into a difficult conversation, if you're getting up in the morning, if you center yourself in this way, you'll notice that you're a lot more able to handle situations, good and bad. That makes sense to everybody? Did everyone have an okay time with that? Anybody really struggle with it? You don't have to share if you don't want to. Okay, wonderful. So we're gonna do. I hope to, anyways, do some more heart breathing during the weekend, just to see. You'll see the difference between your clarity of mind, even within 5 minutes, which is fun. But for now, I'm very excited because we're 10 minutes away from listening to Tim speak. I don't know if I saw him be on the call yet or not. Oh, he's there. Wonderful. Great. We could even start early. That would be awesome. Okay. So Tim, you can definitely unmute yourself. And go. Oh, he can't. Gideon, help him. This is one of those moments where I'm like, I don't know what to do.
I'm unmuted. Hello.
Gideon, help him.
Hello. I just have to say, before I do anything, I just have to say hello, Anne.
Oh, you're unmuted, Tim, but I can't. Oh, no. Sorry, Mike.
You can't hear me? You can't hear me?
There we go. I can hear you. No, I was just muted. I just muted mine.
Yeah?
Okay,
hello,
perfect.
People hear me?
Wonderful.
You're nodding. There's some nodding.
I can hear you.
Wonderful.
Hi, Tim.
Hello.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, it's so nice to see you.
Am I out of focus? What's happening like that? Whoa, come on.
A little bit, but it's pretty good.
No. This camera should do better than that. There we go.
Wonderful. How are you doing? What time is it for you?
It is 10 to 6.
10 to 6.
And folks, so you can't obviously answer me this, but are we mainly from Canada here? We are. Lots of nodding. I've got some music playing in the background. Is that you? Is that on you, Danielle?
Oh, I think that's on Gideon will fix that.
Yeah, can you fix that? Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, so I'm all yours whenever you want me, and if you're having a short break and whatever, we can whatever your timing is, Danielle.
Perfect. So did the music stop for you, Tim?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I think I'm just going to hand it over to you, and you can introduce what you're speaking about. But once again, thank you so much. This is just, wow, I'm just so excited to hear what you have to say.
Me too.
So everybody, this is Tim Freke, and he's going to entertain us with his advanced wisdom now.
Okay, no pressure then, Danielle.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So I'm sure that many of you don't want to put your cameras on because you're thinking there's no reason why he needs to see me. But if you're in the mood to put your cameras on, I really, really like it when you're looking at me, but I'm not. I'm looking at all your faces here because I really want to connect with you and feel that we're actually communicating. And because everything's on mute, which it needs to be, it's very quiet. So if I can see you, and if you're willing to put your camera on, that's a lovely thing, because then we can reach across this, well, literally all across the world. Isn't that amazing? And connect. So, I was invited to contribute something to your retreat in these challenging times. And I thought what I could offer at the beginning of your retreat is to talk some philosophy. And for me, philosophy is a transformational thing. It's not just some abstract thought experiment. It can be that, but it's much more than that. It's actually about how we perceive what is happening. How we answer the question, what is this? Because we're having this amazing experience of being alive right now, quite a challenging and amazing experience of being alive. But what is it? Actually, what is it? And the deepest response, I think, is the one I want to start with, which is, I don't know what it is. And I don't think anyone knows what it is. So the place I really want us to start this journey we're going to take into ideas is to start in the place where we all meet, which is, it is the most awesome mystery. That's what this is. It is an extraordinary, and the more we know about it, the more mysterious it gets. We're in a utterly enormous universe on this amazing planet, and we're alive, and we're making this journey, and we're making it on our own, and we're making it together. And when things get difficult, we reach out for meaning. What does it mean? What is happening to us? How should we respond? Do we live in a universe which is benevolent? Or do we live in a universe which doesn't care? Well, I want to explore a spiritual response to those questions, but I want to explore what I call a trans-scientific spirituality. And what I mean by that is a spirituality which takes the scientific worldview and goes beyond it, but includes it. But before I do that, I think what I want to do is I want to talk about the essence, as I've come to understand it, of what spirituality is. Of course, it's lots of things. But just to get to the simple essence, and then I'd like to explore a way of understanding what we're in and what meaning it has, and then I'd like to land back with the crisis we're in right now. And then if we've got time, maybe we can do a little bit of a meditation with it. So I've had the great privilege of studying and writing books on probably all of the spiritual traditions of the world. 35 books or something crazy. And what I've been looking for primarily is there a common, we're all human beings. Is there a common theme here, which is universally human, but just understood in these different ways in these different cultures? And all the traditions are very different, and they've all evolved over time. But there is some commonalities. And one of the key commonalities is that spirituality is about answering the question, who am I? Which is the complement to what is this? And the answer it gives is a really threefold answer. And I want to share this with you, and so you can see it in your experience. And a lot of what I'm going to say is kind of obvious, but I have to tell you now, I love the obvious, because sometimes the obvious is where the deepest realizations lie. So the first answer that spiritual traditions give, and I'm going to use the language from the West because we're in the West, so I'll draw on the Western esoteric tradition and the philosophic tradition from Greece, and also Christianity, which all speak the same language, really. And the answer they give is, you're a body and a soul. Now, words mean different things to different people. But if you go back to what those words originally meant, they're very, very simple, but very profound, which is that you are having two distinct types of experience right now, and always. On the one hand, you're experiencing the body. Here it is. Very cool, usually. Sometimes not so cool, but often cool. And you're experiencing with the body, you're experiencing the sensory world. You're looking and you're listening and you're feeling and you're touching. And you're a body in the world. I mean, that's pretty mysterious, but that's what you are. That's part of what you are. But you're also having a completely different type of experience all the time. And that's the experience the word we tend to use these days, especially in science, is the psyche. You're experiencing the psyche. The word psyche, or psyche, is a Greek word, and it means soul. Soul comes from a more Norse root. Psyche comes from a Greek root. They're the same word. And what they're referring to is this experience you're having right now of a non-material realm of existence. You are experiencing it all the time. You can call it the psyche, the mind. That's another word for the same thing, actually. The soul, the imagination. You're experiencing a world of images, of thoughts, of memories, of dreams. And they're not in the world. They're not anywhere. You are always both somewhere local. I'm in Glastonbury, you may be in Canada. My body. But we're meeting right now in this non-local domain of soul, because it isn't anywhere. It has no geographical location. Take a look at your experience. So people say often, I'm not sure I believe in the soul. And I think, well, if you go back to what the word really means, it's impossible not to believe in the soul, because to say I don't believe in the soul is a statement that comes straight from the soul, because it's the domain of all meaning. One of the ways I love to point this out is if you look at me now on your screen, you can see that there's a body making funny noises. But there's no meaning in the funny noises. This is just, it's just blah, 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 blah. But you're hearing meaning, and all of the meaning exists in the soul, which is nowhere. The sensory experience you're having is noises. The meaning is all in this other dimension of soul. So we're body and soul. And the teaching, we haven't got time to go into this now, but one of the key teachings that underline spiritual understanding, wisdom, is you're not essentially, you are a body, or the body I think is really important, obviously, but essentially you are the soul. You are something non-material or trans-material. And that's part of the understanding that when the body dies, the soul doesn't. It doesn't die because it's not made of organic matter. It's not a biological thing. It's on a completely different level of existence. And in your experience right now, that's actually obvious. Now, it's not obvious that it survives death. That's a whole different issue, which we won't have time to get into. But what is obvious is you're experiencing two utterly different things. A flow of sensory information and a flow of imaginal information. And that's body and soul. And then there's this third element, which is quite different, which in the West, often the word is spirit. In the East, it's called the Atman, or the Buddha nature. Often in the West, also called the Nous, the Noah. What's that? What is this spirit? Well, the word spirit means essence, which comes from the Latin esse, to be. It's your being. Now here, I'm going to give you, in 60 seconds, the deep teaching in every single mystical tradition in the world. You ready? Here it comes. What you essentially are, your deepest being, has no form. It just is. It just is. That's whether you go to the Sufis, or you go to the Taoists, or you go to the Zen masters, or you go to the Gnostic, anywhere you go, you will find that idea. What does it mean? And how can you experience it? You can experience it now while we're on this call. And the way to experience it is to say, okay, so you're experiencing a flow of sensory information of being a body in the world. Get that? You're experiencing a flow of imaginal information of being a psyche or a soul. So there's a flow of experience, isn't there? Be conscious that you are the experiencer. That's your being. And if you become conscious that you're the experiencer, you will notice that it hasn't got a color. It's not something you can see. It's not a piece of sensory information. But it's not an idea either. It's before all experience. And because it's before all experience, it has no form. All the forms are what you're experiencing. Sensory forms, imaginal forms. And there, if you take your attention back into your depths, there's this stillness against which everything is moving. Your being, or your spirit. Okay, here's the second half of the teaching found in all the mystical traditions of the world. Because your deepest being has no form, it has no limit. It has no boundaries, which means that your being is not different to my being. It means that your being is one with all being. So the great mystery being explored, I think, by human beings who've been down this road before us is that we're experiencing these individual flows of experience. We're individual. I'm having a Tim experience. There's a Tim body and a Tim soul. But my being is the same as your being and the same as all being. So that at once we are both individual and universal. Now, people have been exploring this for hundreds, thousands probably, of years. But we're in an evolutionary process, and I'll explore that a bit more in a minute. And in that evolutionary process, something significant, I think, is happening. And when we come back to look at our current crisis, I think we need to see it in light of this. We've been through a period, quite recently. History is an amazing thing. I love history. I write about it a lot because it teaches you so much about the process we're in. Because it's easy to think things have always been like this, and they really haven't. And human beings have been quite different to us. Something the same, something very different, because we're evolving. And this last phase, and it's not that long, has been marked out by an incredible development of the individual. Up until relatively recently, most people were mostly part of whatever herd they were born into. People hadn't have the same level of individuality that we now take for granted. Look at us all wearing different coloured clothes and different haircuts and groovy glasses. None of that. And we've individuated, and that's been an amazing jump forward in consciousness. It's been a period of individualism. But I want to suggest to you, for you to contemplate over the weekend, that we're now entering another phase of evolution. We're evolving from individuals into what I call unividuals. And unividuals are individuals who are conscious of being one with the universe, of unity. Now, that happens when we find this deep oneness of our shared nature. And whilst people have been exploring that for a very, very long time, there's been pioneers, people out there on the edge, it's been difficult. And people have often had to withdraw completely from the world in order to do it. But what's happening now, and I've seen it in my own lifetime, in my own decades doing this, is that more and more people are experiencing this fundamental unity. So that when I used to go out 20 years ago and go, hey guys, we're all one, most people had no idea what I was talking about, in all honesty. But I bet you on this call right now, when I go, we're all one, I'm going to stick my neck out and say everyone has an idea what that means. That's a monumental shift. And you can see it in other ways too. Again, which we take for granted. There's been a massive change in the way that human beings have seen other human beings. Up until relatively recently, your neighbors were your enemies. And your tribe was what mattered. In my lifetime, I have seen human beings come out on the streets to try and stop wars in countries they will never visit. Millions of them. I've seen human beings care so passionately about suffering in the opposite corner of the world, which will never impact on them at all. And yet they felt it. These are huge shifts, massive shifts in compassion. And it comes from a growing sense of being one. And now we're moving into that sense with the natural world as well. Now, this is just beginning. Please don't misunderstand me. We're really just starting this. But it is significant. We are moving from individuals to unividuals. And with that change, everything will change. So my feeling is we need a spirituality now which can support that shift. And that's why I'm trying to develop something I'm calling unividualism, to support the shift into unividuals. Because in my opinion, having been around spirituality now for 40-something years, I started very young, is that the current state of spirituality is not able to do the job. So we need to really, it needs to become mature. And that requires us to really love on a level we haven't loved before. And it requires us to really think clearly on a level we haven't thought before. It needs us to shape up. And I think part of what this crisis is doing is going, shape up. Get ready. Get ready, because when this ends, it's going to be chaotic. And chaos is an opportunity. It can be absolutely disastrous. It really, really can. And history shows us that again and again. In fact, if I'm going to be straight with you, history shows it's more likely to be disastrous. Generally, people grow into more compassion when things are going well, collectively, and retreat into separateness when things are going badly. But there's also an opportunity, if enough of us are awake to it, that we can take this in a new direction. But that requires courage, it requires love, and it requires clear thinking, wisdom. Danielle talked about heart wisdom. I use the phrase love wisdom. You know, those are the two things. When you wake up to the oneness, it's an experience of love. It's not an experience of, it's an experience of love. Why? Because love is how the oneness feels to the individual. When I'm, you know, in the little corner of my screen here is my gorgeous wife, Debbie, who's going to be doing something with you yesterday. I love her to bits because I feel one with her. In the middle of my screen is Anne, who I've known for a very long time. I love her. I feel one with her. It's like that with everyone you love, isn't it? Well, if you come into a place where there's one of you, there's this big love. There's this universal love for everything and everyone. And then there's the need for the wisdom to know how to bring that into the world. And my experience is that's a lifetime and more of trying to work it out, which involves an awful lot of failure, an awful lot of humility because you realize how wrong you've been, a lot of mistakes, but the willingness to engage. So with that sense, I want to share with you a vision of what we're in, which is what I've ended up with from my lifetime spent trying to make sense of this in a way that doesn't belittle it. And I want a sense of spirituality which doesn't reject science, because science is what's allowing us to talk to each other now. Science over the last 400 years has gone forward at such a rate, it is extraordinary, and it's still happening right now. And its secret has been doubt. Its secret is nothing was sacrosanct. Everything is up for doubt. The failure of religion was its failure to doubt. In fact, it built into it, you shouldn't doubt. Doubt was of the devil, which is why it's stayed exactly the same and gone nowhere. So while science has been moving like an express train, spirituality has largely not, and it needs to. So here's my attempt to get it moving. The narrative which science has given us is utterly beautiful. The way that the universe looks now, and there's a huge amount of evidence now for it too, is that we are in an evolving universe. And we've only known this for 100 years. This is really new. No other generation has known this. We are in the whole universe. Just the whole universe is evolving. Not just us, not just soul, everything. 14 billion years ago, what existed was pretty much just hydrogen and a bit of helium. 14 billion years later, that hydrogen and helium has turned into us. Talking about the beginning of the universe. Conscious, experiencing body, experiencing soul. That's the journey we are in. And that evolutionary process has been one of what scientists call, I love this term, emergence. Because it's constantly seeing the emergence of new things. So the first thing to emerge was basic matter, the simplest thing. And once you've got the simplest thing, you can build on it. So once you've got hydrogen, and then you've got oxygen, you can bring them together, and you're going to have water. And that's the way in which this universe has emerged in ever more evolved ways. And for 10 billion years, we've seen the evolution of the physical universe. And then here on our little blue planet, maybe elsewhere, but definitely here, 4 billion years ago, a whole new level of this emergence happened. All of the physical elements that were necessary came together, and you had the first life. From physics came biology. And then from single cells, multicellular organisms. Until that life form began to actually be able to sense the world around it. And then from that, consciousness. And from that, psyche. The evolution of this transmaterial realm. Now, I haven't got time to go into it all, which is a real shame, but let me just drop this in for you. Physics, which is probably our most complex and advanced science, is now saying, many physicists are now saying, look, the way to understand the early stages, the basics, is that it's information. It's not matter. Physics isn't materialist anymore. Matter has dissolved and turned into information. Underneath matter, there's information. And if you go to the lowest level, you've probably heard with quantum physics, it's actually mathematical probability functions which turn into matter. So it starts off pre-material, it becomes material, which turns into biological information, and then it becomes transmaterial information, which is what you're experiencing in psyche. It's information, but it's on this other transmaterial level. Now, what I think we can do is that what science does, popular science, most science, is it stops at biology, really. And it's arbitrary because it wants to keep it all within the sensory world. So the story which you'll hear a lot from science is, oh yeah, we've evolved up into human beings, and then we've got this funny thing called consciousness, which we don't really understand, and it's a byproduct of the brain, and anyway, that's it. What I'm suggesting is that we don't see it like that. We say, no, a whole new level of reality has evolved from biology. It's not a byproduct. It's a more emergent level. Just like life is a more emergent level than physics, soul is a more emergent level than biology. And we're experiencing it right now. And what spirituality has always been about is the domain of soul. Not as some little side effect of the brain, but as a whole domain of reality, just like the biological, ecological domain, a whole ecology of soul. One in which there is meaning. So the worldviews, let's just look at meaning for a second. How do you make sense of what happens to you, especially when things are bad? You tell a story, and you look for the best story you can get. And for a very long time, we told religious stories of various forms. So in the West, that would be God's in control. Don't worry. Everything happens by the will of God. So it's all right. Sounds great, doesn't it? Until you really think about it, and something bad happens. And then it means God's doing that. Who is this God who's doing these terrible things? And suddenly the idea doesn't seem so attractive. I was talking to my 94-year-old uncle a couple of days ago, and he told me that he was of the opinion that the coronavirus was a punishment from God for gay marriage. That's where you end up. We're being punished by, it's a bad thing, we're being punished, so what have we done? Well, how have we offended this God that he's going, I'm going to kill a lot of people arbitrarily because I don't like gay marriage. Suddenly the whole thing is like, I lived through the AIDS thing. That was like, yeah, it's been sent to us like this is a punishment. You see it all the time, don't you? You go to the place, there's an earthquake and you see people coming out, God is punishing us. So you get that idea. Now, in the East, you get the same thing, except it's not God punishing you, it's karma. Oh, your baby's only got one leg. What did you do in a past life? What did the baby do in a past life? Sounds great on the surface. This is an attempt to make meaning because it goes, we live in a just universe. You get what you sow. That sounds good. So the bad people get bad things, and the good people get good things. Great. I like that universe. That gives meaning to my suffering. Or does it? And suddenly it's like, that's horrendous. So, that's why throughout the whole of history, people who've had terrible afflictions have been socially afflicted on top of it because it was their own fault, or they were being punished by God or their karma or something. Into which came science 400 years ago and doubted. And the thing which people miss about the coming of science is it didn't just bring knowledge, it actually brought compassion. Because it came in and it went, no one's being punished. When bad things happen, it's not because you've been bad and God hates you. It's not, you haven't got your child didn't die because you did something bad in a past life. It's just the nature of biology. It's just what happens. And what we should do is care for each other. And we should try and get rid of those things. And we have. A lot of them. Our kids don't all die by the time they're 5. 4 out of 5 would die. That doesn't happen anymore. Not even in the poorest countries. These are huge steps forward. But, as before, there's a price. Because on the face of it, it feels like, yeah, that's better. But because it stops at biology, Science is actually a very, very bleak worldview, and it's thrown us collectively into a crisis of the soul, because it says there isn't one. It's just a byproduct of the brain. It's nothing. The thing which is the most important is of really nothing. There is no meaning. We're clever monkeys clinging to a rock in the middle of nowhere. We're here long enough to go, what the hell, and then we're gone. And that's it. That's it. So suddenly we have all of this knowledge, and we're caring, but we have a life without meaning. Empty. Pointless. Why is this thing happening right now? Something, accidental. Bats. Someone ate a bat. It happens. It's, it just picks people off. What I want to suggest is that we can actually go to another level again. And we can say, no, that's not quite right. Because the evolutionary process didn't end with biology. That was just getting going. Now we have this level of soul. And if you explore that level of soul, if you explore it with meditation, contemplation, philosophy, ayahuasca, whatever you explore it with, there's a whole world out there. Dreams. It's huge. And it's magical. And it's real. When people say the imagination's not real, what do they possibly mean? It's real. It's the imagination. People go, oh, it's just your imagination. What do you mean just? It's the imagination. Oh my God, that's incredible. Everything, this Zoom things all come from the imagination. Computers, where'd it come from? The imagination. All of it's coming from the imagination. It's the most emergent thing in reality, is the imagination. And it brings meaning. It's a whole domain. So what I'm playing with, and I'm just trying to plant some thoughts for you to contemplate over the weekend and onwards, is that we need a new type of narrative. Now, the old narrative of spirituality is very negative. The old narrative is, you are already a soul, and you've fallen from heaven, or from God, you've fallen into the body, and the body's a bad thing. Nearly all early spirituality is all about how bad the body is. You're stuck in the body is a tomb, you've got to get back home. You're already perfect, you've just forgotten, and now you're all fucked up. And you just need to get back to where you already were. God's had a dream, and he's fallen asleep in his dream, and if you just wake up, this is all Maya, it's an illusion, it's a mistake, you're caught on the wheel of karma. If you can just get rid of the body and rid of all your human attachments and become pure enough, you can make it home. And then you won't have to come back to this shithole ever again. That's basically spirituality for most of the past, actually, in many forms. What I want to suggest is that we turn it around and we go, we haven't fallen. We're evolving upwards too. So what I'm saying to spirituality is, forget the idea of the fall and embrace the idea of evolution. And what I'm saying to science is, don't stop that story with biology. There's the most important levels have come after that. It has moved into soul. And that is a domain in its own right. And it's a rich and important domain. And it interacts with this. And it's doing it now. Look, I'm intending in my psyche to move my mouth, and it's moving. It's obvious. Of course it interacts. And if you're into healing, it's not just the body, is it? If you alter how you think, it affects the body. Of course it does. But more generally, too. I suspect you've all noticed on your journey that the more you make the spiritual journey, the more dreamlike life becomes. What Carl Jung called synchronicities, magic. It's like the whole thing is like, whoa, hang on a second, life is interacting with me here. What the hell's that? I think what that is that life has evolved into a type of dream. It's evolved into a story. In the material world, things are held together by cause and effect, aren't they? Look, if I pick up something, it drops. But in the world of the psyche, things are held together by meaning. and by story and by narrative. So quite literally, the universe has evolved into a story, and all of that levels are interacting. So what we're in now is a story, and it's a story which has got a physical base, and then a biological, and then the story. Which is why when we meet, if we were to meet up, I want to go, how's your story? Everything's about the story for us now. And they interact. All those levels are interacting. It's not one or the other. It's why it's so disastrous, I think, in spirituality. What science does is it goes, no, it's all the lower levels. It's really all physics. And the rest is just nothing. And then what spirituality tends to do is, no, it's only the higher levels. So if everything that's happening to you is a result of the way you think, that can't possibly be true, can it? I'm creating my own reality, in which case, if you're creating your reality, then I'm part of your reality. How's that? So I'm not saying this really, you're just creating it. This can't be right, can it? And the problem is we don't see that it's all of that interacting. It's all of those levels interacting. Okay, so here's where I wanted to go. And then maybe we'll do something with it and we might be able to chat for a while. What's the latest level now we've got here? The latest level is that through the soul having become sufficiently individual, by thinking for itself, by doubting, by questioning, by searching, by looking for more and more psyches, more and more souls are becoming conscious of their deep being. And what is their deep being? What is that? Well, if this is an evolutionary process we're in which more and more emergent things are arriving, where's it come from? What's its base? What's the simplest quality which is becoming all qualities? And I want to suggest to you that the simplest quality that's becoming all qualities is a quality which could be called being. Because when I look around me, there's one thing that everything partakes in. Everything is. Everything, every idea, every physical object, every life form, everything which is. And the term that the philosophers used to give that in the ancient world was being. And because being has no other qualities other than being, it has no form. It just is. So right there at the foundation of this process, there is this formless being which is in the process of becoming. Something without form is evolving into ever more emergent form. Something which doesn't change and is therefore timeless is on a journey of evolving in time into a greater and greater realization of potentiality. So what are we in? Well, how about this? We're in being in a process of becoming in ever more emergent ways, in which that oneness is in relationship with itself in every conceivable way. And what are we? We are that oneness of being in relationship with itself. So that there's one being becoming everything. That one being has become Tim. And Tim is in relationship with the one. And as Tim, in relationship to the one, Tim's an individual. And the more individual he becomes, the more conscious he is. The more evolved he becomes. But also, it's possible that I can stop and take my attention to my deepest being, which is what the mystics have been saying all along. And I realize, the ground of the universe from which everything is emerging is what I am and what you are. And when I become conscious of that, there's one of us. And I start to evolve then from an individual only into a unividual. an individual conscious that I am the universe. And with this comes this enormous love. So, my story was really to come back to where we are right now. What I'm suggesting is that we're on the cusp of a massive transformation. It's been happening quietly for some time, and there's a good chance it's going to speed up. And we need to understand what's happening to us now on all those levels. So there's a biological level to this. And we can look at it and we can just go, yeah, it's a virus. They come around every now and again. We are due another big one. And here it is. And we can avoid the traps of the pre-rational, pre-scientific thinking. We don't have to go back to religion. We don't have to go with my uncle and go, oh, God's punishing us. We don't have to go for a kind of more green New Age version of that, which I'm seeing a lot, and go, the planet is punishing us. We don't need to do that. No one's punishing us. It's a virus. We need to work it out. We need to find a vaccination. We need to do all the things we need to do. But all of that also involves the soul. And there's things we can do with the soul to really help that process. And with the soul, we can go, what is that doing in our story? We're in this amazing story. Now, what is it? If this has come right now for us individually, and now we're all sitting here in our little homes, everyone's thinking about their lives. When one person goes through that on their, at a time, I've seen people utterly transformed. The whole world is going through it. What the hell? What the hell? What is that in our story? And when we come out, there's going to be a lot of competing answers to that. And I want the spiritual community to reach deep and find the deepest answer, so that when we come out, we can accelerate this movement towards individuality, towards compassion and wisdom. And we're going to need to be ready to face all the currents, the evolutionary currents that are going in the opposite direction. Because humanity, like everything, is evolving, which means there's all the different levels. There's people on the planet still living in the Middle Ages. And there's people on the planet who are living on the cutting edge of where we're going. They're all there, and they're all meeting. All these different stories are meeting. And we need to find the most emergent story. And the most emergent story is the one that carries the deepest wisdom and the most love. So, hopefully some of that will have been of interest. I'm wondering, Danielle, whether I can just lead us in a 5 or 10 minute little meditation around that. Would that be okay? I can see you.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. We've got.
Are you up for that, folks? I'm thinking maybe let's kind of root that. Great. Lots of thumbs. I love that. Thank you. All right. So this is going to be a little contemplation to try and get this. So just make yourself comfy. Make yourself really comfy and relax. And I'm just going to ask you to pay attention to some things. Your identity. So, start with your body. Be conscious of your body. Sitting there, breathing. Not just conscious, be appreciative of your body. Sitting there, breathing. And I want you to contemplate with me that although your body has a skin which makes it discrete and individual, makes it your body, how interconnected it is really with the whole ecology of life. and that it could not possibly exist without being part of this great web of life. The food you eat, the water you drink, all of that sustenance, all coming from the sun on which you rely. And that we even know now that the very chemicals that make up your body arose in stars billions of years ago. So that although you are relatively individual, you are also intrinsically one with the whole of the sensory world. You've arisen from it, you exist within it, you are one with it. So just for a moment, instead of seeing yourself just as a physical body, see yourself as the whole universe arising as that physical body. Your individual nature and your universal nature. And then I invite you to sink your attention into the soul or the psyche, the imagination. And you're experiencing your soul, your thoughts, your memories, your story. But I invite you to see how your story is completely enmeshed with so many other stories. That your soul is connected and intertwined with so many other souls. All the souls you know and love, living and dead. A great web of soul, just like the web of life. And to see how those connections reach out from soul to soul to soul to form an ecology of soul. And on this level as well, although you are individual, you are intrinsically one with the whole cosmic soul, the ecology of soul. You are both individual and universal. So in your imagination, just reach out to embrace your universal nature. And then take your attention and sink it into the depths of your being. That still presence, which is always present, before all experience. Something you know simply as the knowledge that you exist. Very still, very deep. And from that place, once again, be conscious of everything that is, all of the qualities of existence, and that they all share in this one quality of being, that we are one being. That you are an individual expression of the oneness of being, experiencing that oneness. Through you and me, the universe can consciously know that it is one. And then finally, my friends, just spend a few moments holding everything within that oneness with love. And especially at this time where there's so many people suffering with illness, with grief, and with fear. Holding those people, ourselves, in that huge reassuring love. In that sense that although things can be hard, terrible, what we're evolving towards is beautiful and redeeming. Because what we are evolving towards is this all-embracing love. And then when you're ready, open your eyes, give your body a little wiggle. And we're done. Thank you everyone for your kind attention. It was a real delight to come and spend some time with you.
Thank you so much, Tim. And Tim, before you head off, first of all, I don't know if anybody had any questions for you, but I also would like for you to let people know where they can find more about your books, where they can find about your programs, and if they're interested in reconnecting.
Yes. Good. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you. That's it. I always forget all those bits, and they're really important. So look, yeah, my lovers, as they say in Somerset where I live. If you would like to know more about unividualism, the process of awakening and the philosophy, go to my website. I have a very funny name. It really is pronounced Freke, but it's spelled F-R-E-K-E. It's an old English name. So if you Google Tim Freke, you will certainly find me. If you go to my website, you can, there's books and audiobooks are available and all sorts of stuff is there for you. But also, right now, I have an organization called the ICU, which is the International Community of Unividuals, and we are literally all over the world. Very small, really. but lovely people literally spanning everywhere. And we get together once a week on a Sunday in the evening for the UK. And you are welcome. And right now, because of this lockdown, normally people join by donation, but right now there's no money involved at all. So if you just want to come, you can just come and be part of that straight off and get involved in what we're up to and have a look and see what it's like. I also have a philosophy course. If you're into philosophy, it's normally £30. I've decided, so many people are doing courageous things. The nurses and the dustbin men and all these people who get taken for granted are out there doing really courageous shit. And I'm a philosopher. What the hell can I do? Well, the least I can do is give away my philosophy. So if you want the online course, I'm giving it away. To get any of that, go to the website and email me, and I will send you how to become a free member of the ICU, and I will send you the free course. Or find me on Facebook and ask me there. It's available. I haven't got the information to hand, but if you reach me, which you can, or Danielle can give you the details, then you are very welcome to have both of those as a gift from me to help you through this if it will help. And on an ongoing basis, I'm out doing this as much as I can. And if you want to be part of it, you can. If you really enjoy your retreat and you want to be part of another retreat, although I think it's terrible timing for you, I'm guessing, it should have been a Japan retreat. I should be in Japan right now, but because I'm not, I'm doing a 4-day retreat in English with Japanese translation next week. So next Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So if you want to come and have more of it, you can have more of it for 4 days online. But yeah, it'll be lovely to see you again. And let's keep taking this forward, huh? Thank you.
That's incredible, Tim. Your offerings are extremely generous. That I didn't even know that you were giving all that stuff away for free. That's amazing.
Honest to truth, Danielle, I want to give it all away for free. That's the honest truth. It feels like, partly because I'm old enough now, and it feels like life is short, and we need to make this happen now. So anything I can do, I want to do while I'm here. Obviously we have to keep our head above water like everyone, but I want us to move. So it's a delight. I love it. I'd like to do it more.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. I just feel like you're such a breath of fresh air, being able to connect these two worlds that seem to be in such opposition. It feels like for everybody that's hanging around the middle that can't make sense of the extremes, it's finally something that we can hold on to, which is practical and wise and everything that I think we need right now. So yeah, thank you again.
It's a real delight. Well done for organising this. Well done everyone for showing up. And I think you're going to have a fantastic few days.
Amazing. Okay, thanks, Tim.
Alrighty.
Bye. And for everybody else now, when Tim's signing off, we can just have a break. Wesley is up next with his Qigong class, and he's going to be starting at 11:30. So in 40 minutes. So if you can come about 10 minutes early, that would be great, because I think he'll be starting directly at 11:30. So we'll open up the call will just be open, and you can stay involved and clear your space. I'm not sure if with his Qigong practice you'll be needing a mat or not, but have your mat on hand, maybe lay it out and just have your space ready to do some movement, and be prepared to have all the Wesley goodness shot at you, because he is so great and energetic, and Qigong practice is very nourishing. We're able to move our Qi and feel revitalized without overextending, without doing like big physical workouts. You can do the internal movement of Qi. So as an acupuncturist, I'm very excited to explore that with Wesley. So yeah, I'll see you at 11:30 or whatever time it is for you in about 40 minutes, and have a good break. You can do journaling, contemplating, or whatever your life needs you to do.